7:19, we're ready to go in 1 minute.
We're ready, 1 minute?
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
a public
hearing.
hearing. 2 of them quickly.
Okay.
How are you?
Hi.
Very good. How's vacation?
Oh, magical.
Great. No, almost there. All right, Peter, let us rock and roll. Yes? Good evening. It's June 25th, 7:20, and we have a public hearing. We actually have 2 tonight. One, it's because it's 7:20, we're going to start the first one. It's to amend a local law to amend Chapter 220-6 zoning code to change the zoning code for 2 parcels located at 1 and 3 Bacon Street. Glens Falls from Glens Falls multifamily residential, R-M, to general commercial, GC-1. We will, anybody from the public that would like to talk about this suggested zoning code, please come to or the applicant certainly can come up first if you would folks. And just review with us. I think we know you were here first and then you went to the planning board. So we'll have you talk a little bit about the project again. Yes, thank you.
Good evening, I'm Chuck Marshall from Stewart's. With me is Mark Piscadlo from MJ Engineering. They did the traffic analysis and I just want to make sure sometimes I put my plans upside down.
All right.
So I just wanted to check those. But basically, as we identified early on, the existing signal operates at a level of E and F, which is not desirable for Stewart's as we come in, or we think the city. When we went to the planning board, there was a positive recommendation coming from them, and similar to this board's concerns, there were some layout and access configuration issues that we wanted to walk through. So what we did, and I know you guys know most of this, and I just want to remind you, Bacon is a one-way street that heads in. So again, a limiting factor in where the driveway placement should be. So what we did was we inputted the signal and turn lane onto Sherman, which is the layout you see before you, modified the crosswalks, and have a right in, right out on Glen. We have the one driveway on Bacon, which will, be a 2-way driveway, but it'll access, again, in and out, down Bacon, and then the Sherman access will be all the way to the, south or west. We have a sidewalk coming from Sherman, connecting to the store. So there should not be, although, pedestrians will do as they please, there should not be a need to traverse the drive aisle for pedestrians. But we brought the store all the way to Bacon so that there's no separation between Bacon and the store. Now that side of the store is where our cooler and freezer are. So there is no door on that side, and that's unfortunately somewhat of a fixed element because of our operation. We can't modify that around too much, and we do have the need for visibility to the canopy, which we've aligned to Sherman, perpendicular to Glen. We have spoken and worked with, I think, all or most of the neighbors. Brian is here tonight from 5 Bacon. He and I walked through the project a couple of weeks ago. We met with the Crandall Park Beautification Committee, who is designing the pollinator park in this section here. And there's no trees, one in part because Brian has a large tree here that we don't want to put vegetation under in an attempt to, suffocate it. And then we'll see what Crandall Park comes back with, and then the landscape plan will be modified from there. Again, it's a large change to the neighborhood and the site. I think there's certainly some improvements that are to be had, but there was some significant need. I think this is the only way to address those needs.
The entrance on Bacon, did you push that back farther so people can't scoot out even though it's a one-way?
We can't move it any further. I don't have. So I just highlighted where the driveway is today on Bacon. Again, one of the things that you have is very open, very giving curb cuts, which you would not approve or authorize today. So we did move it back, but not any further because we're still pushing. Is that west or south?
That would be west.
West. We're still pushing further west. As it is, we have to, as Brian and I discussed, I have to move the fence east because he needs some room between his driveway and the fence for snow storage and accessing getting his wife out of the car. So I don't know, one of the things, and maybe it's more appropriate during the secret discussion, one of the things that we do need to discuss is the cost sharing mechanism between Stewart's and the city for the intersection improvements. As we identified, these are pre-existing conditions. So while Stewart's is willing to bear some of the cost, because we're inheriting some of the existing conditions, we don't think we should bear all of them. In addition to which, at our last meeting, you guys had discussed that there's some existing budget for signal improvements and changes. So I do have with me a cost sharing plan. I can share that now or again later in the agenda when it's actually on for an agenda item.
Well, and again, really all we're reviewing tonight is the zoning of the two lots. So all of this and our input regarding this whole thing will come under site plan review back at the planning board. So I was planning on going. I'd love to meet with you and we can share the information.
Sure.
I can take a look at what is currently in our budget, what isn't, and when that might be happening. So, but that's not what we're, just so everybody here is aware. Certainly when we go to public comment, people can comment whatever they like,
Yep.
but this isn't about the layout. We're not approving that layout. I do appreciate you saying it. I just want to make sure that we're all clear that this is not about the layout where the curb cuts will be, any of that, right? Because that will get final approval from the planning board and only the planning board.
Well, and it's actually, in this instance, because we're moving the building closer to Bacon, we're voluntarily seeking area variances from the zoning board as well.
Right.
So the other boards, but what I'm getting at is the cost sharing mechanism between Stewart's and the city, which the planning board does not have the authority to enter into.
No, we would, you and I will review that.
Okay.
And then, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And then I need to make sure it's within our budget, or if not, then I need to come to the council and they would then approve whatever you and I might, like I might say to them, this is what Stewart's willing to do, this is what we can do, and if they don't approve, then we'll go back and it might be all nil, right?
Okay.
And so regardless, this is about rezoning those two parcels only. Just
Okay.
wanted to make, I know you're aware of it, but I want to make sure we're stating it because that, and the whole change of that street, and depending on whether it's in our budget or not, is literally going to be 2025 street changes. or not 2024, which have already been set and done, so. Other
But
questions?
part of the benefit, I think, to the residents of the city of the council agreeing. I'm saying part of the benefits to the residents of the city of the council agreeing to the zoning change is the improvements to the safety, right? I mean, I think we agree. So I would like to see the cost share if you have it, just because that's part of the decision.
Yeah, no, I do have it. And again, this is an introductory kind of form.
Yeah.
But what I did, and again, I did this based on the kind of the comment I received before, and that was, I assumed that the city would assume the liability for the signals, pedestrian, and the traffic signal, and stewards would assume the responsibility of the earthwork, because if that were how the contracts were broken out, in that instance, the city's contribution is $193,500 and Stewart's is $163,000. We have already paid for the design of the intersection and signalization. So that's of course a cost we've already borne. But again, not knowing what your budget is for signals and overall traffic improvements, I did want to start the conversation with something, and I wasn't going to come here and say we're going to pay, just for the design, which is 10% of the overall budget. Like, we acknowledge we're requesting a change, and it does, benefit the store, but to Councilwoman's point, there is an overall benefit to the city we see as well.
It's a great start of the conversation.
Are there any other questions for me, or?
You said there was a graphic, but I don't see it in the back of those. I don't see it in my back.
It's not.
I thought you had said that.
No. I brought it with me. It has been submitted to the planning board. Again, just the way the meeting schedule goes, you have to submit before this meeting to make that agenda. And we are trying to construct this year because we are obligated to close on the property should we receive the approvals.
So when are you obligated to close on the property? Is there a date?
Everything's contingent upon the approval. So if you guys voted tonight, we would commence the closing process, but that would, be 2 weeks out, that thing.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anybody from the public would like to talk about this in our public comment period? Please come, just identify yourself and your address.
I'm Brian Hasham at 5 Bacon Street, right next to Stewart's. I want to thank Chuck and Stewart's for coming with our concerns and addressing them. The other part of this, since this is my first time going through this is the third or fourth meeting, and I don't know when the process ends and what's the steps. So we got this now, approve the properties. Or
It's
GC.
only for the rezoning.
I understand.
Gotcha.
The next thing is the planning board on July 2nd. Thank you very much. And then it comes from the planning board for review, and what happens after that?
Well, it looks like there might be a zoning board as well, a zoning board approval because of setbacks. And so it would then go to the zoning board. If the zoning board approves that change, then both of those recommendations would come back to the common council for final approval.
No.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No. So if the common council approves the zoning change, the parcels become GC1. The plans then go before the planning board and the zoning board of appeals. If the planning board is satisfied that all the materials are present, they could vote on it, approve it on July 2nd. Zoning board also could grant their variance on the meeting they hold in July. So if that happens, the stewards could have their final approvals in the month of July from both Planning Board and Zoning Board of Appeals. It does not come back to Common Council.
It does not come back. Gotcha. Thank you.
But what would come back, or not necessarily, I don't know, it all depends, but I would need to meet with them, and we would be talking about this cost sharing
Oh, I'm sorry.
and make sure that that meets that. And if there is an additional expenses or it doesn't fit within our current budget, then the council would need to approve that agreement.
At another meeting. Okay.
Yes.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening, Claudia Bramer. I'm a resident of Glens Falls over by the high school. I go to this Stewart's a lot, especially with my kids to get ice cream and that sort of thing. And everyone thinks Stewart's is great. They are a very good company, great for the community. As Mr. Marshall said, this particular change is a very big change to the site and going to have a big change for the neighborhood. And I think that the council really needs to take that into consideration, especially since you're in the process of updating your comprehensive plan and you have not yet gotten to the point of actually completing your comprehensive plan. So in my opinion, it's not in the best interest of the city and its residents to piecemeal and change the zoning code around the city for different individual parcels, for different individual companies, when you're so close to completing the comprehensive plan. The other thing that I want to mention is that we have completed at the county level a study on affordable housing stock in general, and we desperately need housing. And this is going to take 2 parcels out of multifamily housing and put it into commercial. So I think in that vein, you also need to take a very careful look at what you're doing, essentially replacing housing in our city with blacktop. And to that point, if you look at the plans, which I know you guys aren't doing site plan review tonight, that's not your role, but you still need to take into consideration what exactly it is they are proposing. And this is way more blacktop space than they need. Just for comparison purposes, if you look at the Broad Street Stewart's, that building was 3,256 square feet, and they did a 920 square foot canopy for the gas pumps. A total site area of 13,000 square feet. Right now, this particular thing with the additional lots added would be over 30,000 square feet. That's just back of the envelope. I did some calculations, and this will be twice the size of that Broad Street facility. So it is possible for them to put a new store and new gas pumps on the existing site without giving them the 2 additional residential lots. I have mentioned it before, and I'm going to mention it again tonight, the changes about the character and alignment of the building on Glen Street with respect to the other buildings, like the Chapman Museum is right there. They all are aligned fairly close to the sidewalk, especially when you go to the senior center on the other side of Sherman. And this is going to be dropping the building pretty far back on Bacon Street, yes, so it's aligned with Bacon Street, but it still has no pedestrian access on Glen Street whatsoever. And I have been paying attention. If you look at the one that's at the outlets in Lake George, they have a nice sidewalk that goes straight from the main sidewalk on Route 9 to the store, so that people do not have to cross the sea of parking lot to get to the entrance to the building. Here, we're not going to have that at all. You're going to have to either cross from here and go straight across the parking lot, or come all the way down the sidewalk, cross this driveway, or if you come from Sherman, you're going to have to cross another driveway unless you go along this sidewalk, which is helpful, I will say that. But I want you guys to realize that when this goes to the planning board, they're going to look at this for site plan review. They're going to maybe change some location of the bushes. Maybe they'll ask them to change the location of the dumpster, but they are not going to change the layout of the building. Even when you specifically ask them to look at traffic and pedestrian considerations as far as the zoning change recommendation that they made to you, they barely considered that. They barely discussed it. Go back and watch the video. Those were important considerations that they really didn't take a lot of time to weigh in on. And so once this zoning is changed, there isn't going to be a lot to change the process going forward. This is the time to meaningfully influence the process, including this idea that Stewart's is offering to add the turning lane, but you have no real assurance of that. They could go to the planning board tomorrow, and I'm not saying you will, Chuck, don't get mad at me. I'm just saying, as part of this process, you need to have assurances that the benefit that you think you're getting with this turning lane is really there. You've said tonight that they can change the site plan layout at any time after you change the zoning code for 1 and 3 Bacon. Okay, so why are we not making sure that we have the cost sharing agreement in place? And I would argue to you that that's part of seeker. You need to make sure that all the approvals that the city is doing at this time are all considered up front and that you have that information available to you. I would say, I am submitting to you again that you should not change the zoning for 1 and 3 Bacon. At the very least, don't change it for 3 Bacon. They can do everything that they need to do with just having the lots the way they have them now, or at the most, if you're gonna let them have the turning lane, then maybe give them 1 Bacon. But I don't see any reason that benefits the community to give them 2 additional lots when they already have an enormous amount of space to do all of this. So I know it's hard and uncomfortable to say no. I've been in your position, but I ask you to take this time to really consider it and maybe put pause on it for tonight. You don't have any obligation to give them an answer tonight, even if they already put this plan in front of the planning board. So I will just submit this tiny little map I made for you off the GIS mapping, showing the 30,000 square feet plus if you give them 1 Bacon but not 3 Bacon. They have plenty of room without 3 Bacon, and it reserves and keeps a little bit of the residential community character there.
Any other public comment? With that, we'll close this public hearing, and we'll open the next public hearing regarding the city's CBG 2024 Community Development Block Grant 5-Year Action Plan. In front of you, Pat's going to come up if you have any questions, but it's the same information that Pat presented to us. He gave us a one-pager as well. I don't want to steal your thunder, but it looks like we, since the last meeting, the state did let us know that, federal government let us know that we're going to get roughly 10,000 more in program year.
In the new program year, right. I'm Pat Dowd, I'm the Community Development Director for the city. You all know that, but I feel like I have to say that every time I come before the board. Before I go on, Jim Clark and I had a very eventful weekend. He probably hasn't said it because he's too modest to do so. His youngest child and my youngest child both graduated from Glens Falls High School on Saturday, which means that for the first time in 25 years, there's not a Dowd in Glens Falls schools. So I just figured that I need to say that. Thank you very much. So the flyer that I handed to you is literally the exact same thing that we talked about 2 weeks ago when I presented my full budget. The information is all the same: housing, infrastructure improvements, nonprofits, and then program administration to run the program. We're very excited to have the extra $10,000 because it means that much more that we can do for the community. So I'm happy to take any questions or to allow anybody else to speak if they have other things to say. Okay?
Thank you. Is there anybody from the public who'd like to talk about the CBG program year budget? Not hearing anybody, we'll leave this open for a fat minute. See if anybody online, Peter?
Excellent work. say one more thing?
Sure.
So last week, last meeting, when I came before the council, we talked about the relatively unknown program that we have for emergency repairs. Somebody must have been listening. Thank you, Ben, for that photo, which we're going to be producing something actually for the city. Somebody must have heard that meeting though, because 2 days ago, I got a call from someone who I didn't know before, didn't have any contact with the city before, who had a problem and said, I heard you have this program. So we were able to get emergency sewer line repairs, inside the house repairs, because there was some issue with the bottom part of the system, let's say, and I'll leave it there. And we were able to get IBS in, get them to fix it. We're paying, the city's paying, or the program is paying for part of that. And the people who had moved out of their house are now back in their house. So, that's one small piece of what that program can do for people who would have had all sorts of problems being able to pay for it before.
Thank you. We'll now close the public hearing on the city's 2024 Community Development Block Grant Program Year Action Plan. We'll open the Glens Falls Common Council regular scheduled session. It's still Tuesday, June 25th, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilman Lapham, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll open the Common Council with public comments. Anybody who'd like to speak to the Common Council or address the Common Council, please come to the podium and tell us your name and address, please. Peter, do we have anybody online? Reaching out. So if not, then the first up on our agenda, or next up on our agenda, should be Chief Smith from Glens Falls Police Department. Our Chief, to talk about, give us an update on the police department, please, sir. Welcome.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you, Mayor, for inviting me to give the Common Council a quick update of what the police department's been working on and some kind of goals that we're looking for. Some of the projects that we've completed this year so far have been the cameras throughout the city and all the parks, the city hall, including the police station downstairs. They are all up and operational thanks to the technology committee. So that was a big accomplishment. I didn't have anything to do with it, but I'm the one that's monitoring them now. So I just wanted to say thank you.
You did give feedback at as we were looking through camera systems to see which ones would be, best adaptable for the police department.
Right.
So you speak, modestly.
And they've been very useful thus far, helping us with some of the cases that we've had, and they're only going to continue to help, I think. Our HVAC system in the police station died about a month ago. So it was a 10-year-old system, and that's about what they last for. So we were able to use ARPA money, and we have a brand new HVAC system in the police station that was installed last week. We had to upgrade our body cams. The software for those were outdated, and they weren't going to honor any body cams that would shut down. So we had to upgrade that entire system. That's a requirement for our police department to have the body cams with each officer. So those have been upgraded. We upgraded our patrol rifles that each officer has that goes out on duty with them. Those were 18 years old, so they needed to be replaced, and we had budgeted for that. So there's computer upgrades coming, I believe. Store Tech is going to be upgrading to Windows 11, and we have 4 outdated computers that we need to upgrade, which isn't bad. So that's all coming out of ARPA money.
I think that's in tonight's resolution.
I think it is, yes.
Okay.
The flooring in the police station has been all replaced, and that flooring that's been there has been in that police station since I started, probably since Mary was. Well, yeah. So we finally got the police flooring fixed. We're also going to do the flooring in the locker rooms, because it's all the same stuff. Same thing with the lockers that are in the locker room. Those are all been here since I've been here. So those are getting replaced, and not until December because of the order issue. We have our 2 budgeted police vehicles that should be coming soon that we budgeted for, so those are on the way. We've been upgrading our radios each year. They have to be P25 digital compliant with the county, otherwise our radios won't work anymore. So that's also been budgeted each year, so we have those ordered. And I'm looking to implement our canine unit again. We just need to find a dog and get a handler. That school's in September, so I'm hoping I'll be able to get that done in time.
I had a dog for you.
What's that?
It's a little old, but I've got a dog for you.
My canine is retired in the basement of my house right now, so yeah, he won't be coming out of retirement. So positions that we still have in the police department, still have vacant an assistant chief, 1 sergeant, and 3 patrolmen. So I'm hoping that this year we can get all that fulfilled. We currently have 1 DRE, which is a drug recognition expert, and I would like to get at least 1 more of them, and that's all paid for by the state. We get reimbursed for that, so that'll be nice to have. With the impaired driving that's on the rise and has been for years, that's a must. I would like to get another firearms instructor. We have 2 right now. 1 can retire next year, so we have to qualify every year at our range through DCJS and our accreditation. So that has to be done by a licensed firearm instructor. I have to send some sergeants to supervisor school, which is also a requirement through our DCJS accreditation. We currently have 5 officers that are certified in bike patrol. So, and I think the first time they're going to be out is for the July 3rd Symphony and Fireworks. Accomplishments so far as staffing goes, this year we've hired 4 patrolmen. They'll graduate Friday, this coming Friday. So they'll start their field training. It's 3 months of field training, and they'll be on the road. We were able to certify 2 more on bike patrol, and we were able to also hire 1 traffic aide, and she starts July 1st. In addition to that,
Position in the building.
it's not.
I'm going to come out of retirement here.
And in addition to, we started talking about the law enforcement assisted diversion program. That's still in, I believe Pat, who's not here anymore, Pat was starting the process of writing some grants for that. And that's about all I have. Anyone has any questions?
How's our social worker doing?
Oh, and Darlene is doing very well. She's very busy, very active, and been a huge asset to the police department.
Averages about 30 referrals a month last time I met.
Easy. I think now summer's here, it's going to go through the roof.
Really?
Have you found that it's been easier to recruit or hire since our recent contract negotiation?
Most definitely.
Yeah.
I think that was a huge lift. And I thank you for that. I don't think we would have done without it.
Okay.
yeah, I mean, to that point, 3 vacancies sounds like a lot, but you were in 11.
Correct.
So there's, right, you want to give credit where credit's due, the work that you and the council have done, have made the tenor of the workforce, everybody seems to be pulling together. It seems that it's fantastic.
Yes, I would agree.
Any further questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Have a nice evening.
With that, then the next on our agenda is committee reports. Councilman Clark, please.
I've been remiss in mentioning this, but it's not really a committee, it's the council meeting with the mayor and the department heads. We've started going over just mid-year budget review stuff, gearing up for our budget discussions in September, but it's good to take a pulse of where we stand mid-year on where they are in their budgets and how they're looking going forward for the rest of the year. So we'll continue to meet with the various department heads tomorrow. We're meeting with building and codes and a couple other departments. So, and then we'll wrap up, and then the mayor will put his budget together, and then we'll sit down and get that and go over that. So that's it.
Thank you. Councilman Donahue, committee reports.
We had the sustainability meeting Tuesday, June 14th, and one of the things they had discussed was the EV charging stations proposal. And we don't know if we want to take care of that, or put it in the hands of someone else. And right here is next step, so I think we're in wait and see mode. And that goes to a landfill solar project. And we did have a kickoff meeting with NIPA and the BSD on renewables on Tuesday at 9. So I don't know if we're going to be leasing that or what's going on in the solar project. So I'm not giving you a lot of information. I understand that. But, and then on the third thing here, we got Clean Energy Community 3.0 update. Clean heating and cooling and energy purchase campaigns approved, and climate smart community grant proposal from Start Tech for last task. And the state farm update orders the first customer. So what can I say? In the buildings we're having vegetation and everything else, vegetables and herbs and all that. That seems to be going quite good. So I'm sorry we not have enough information into it, but a lot of it's just wait to see.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Landry is not feeling well this evening. Councilwoman Palmer, please.
Yes, the Recreation Committee will meet on Friday at 1 p.m. When we last met, we were kind of narrowing down the work we may need from Jeremy, our city engineer. So I met with him on Friday to go over our proposed budget and the work that we are hoping he will do, and he's going to attend our meeting. We're talking about 2 different dog parks in the city and field houses. And then in addition to that, at Murray Street, there's currently the field house is we're deciding what to do with that. So one idea is to completely tear it down and then build a pavilion similar to what we have at Montcalm with 2 bathrooms facing out, so you wouldn't have to go into the field house to get to the bathrooms. But that may be expensive. The other option is to kind of patch and repair the field house we have now. So we're asking Jeremy to help us with the specs on both of those, and then we'll go get some quotes and see what we can afford. So that'll be Friday at 1 p.m.
Thank you. Councilman Lamb.
Ordinarily, the first Wednesday of each month, we have the Technology Committee, but because of the holiday, that'll be on, it's been rescheduled to July 10th. That's all I have.
Thank you. Councilman Good.
Yes, for the building, special committee. We are continually getting in a lot of suggestions for Haviland's Cove. And they've been great suggestions. They keep coming in, and we want them to keep coming in because we really want your input. Talk to them. We haven't scheduled a meeting yet because we keep getting a lot of input, so we're really excited about it. But we will be having a meeting in July, and I will be announcing it. And as there's so much coming in, but I want to get it out to the council just so you can look at it. So.
Thank you. And so that's it for committee reports. Next up, we just have one voice vote, a resolution to approve the minutes of the June 11th, 2024 meeting of Glens Falls Common Council. We have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. Under roll call vote, we need to pull resolutions 6 and 7 so that seeker can be done individually with those. And so are there any other roll call votes that the council would like to pull for discussion? Not hearing any, we will go to roll call vote. Resolution 2 is to increase revenue line A009999-2680, insurance recovery by $10,098.74, and increase budget expense line A23310-4479, electrician other contracted services by $10,098.74 to pay for repairs for pole number 57 caused by an automobile accident that occurred on September 18, 2023. 3 is a resolution approving authorizing the submission of the city's entitlement community development block grant program year annual action plan and fiscal year 2024 CDG program budget in the amount of $474,559 to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Renewal Development for review and approval. 4 is a resolution to authorize the community development manual payments in the total of $3,401.37 to reimburse expenses of 2 not-for-profits per year 2023 agreement. 5 is a resolution to authorize the controller to decrease revenue line A11999-990-9000 contingency by $3,000, increase parks A67110-4479 other contracted services by $3,000 to cover the cost of moving the monument boulder from City Park to Crandall Park. 6 is pulled, 7 is pulled, 8 is a resolution for the following mobile food unit licenses, number 34-2024 and number 35-2024. 9 is a resolution to retroactively approve encroachment permit number 36-2024 as approved by Mayor Collins on May 23rd, 2024 for National Grid to replace a gas main on Glen Street between Fort Amherst Road and Arbor Drive and to install a gas main on Fire Road between Glen Street and Jerome Avenue from May 23rd through June 30th, 2024, following the city engineer's general requirements. It's permit number 36-24, subject to the prevailing wages requirements in Article 8 of New York State Labor Law. 10 is a resolution to approve 2024 Ox Tax Award budgeted city funds to be reimbursed by Warren County occupancy tax receipts. 11 is a resolution to approve a memorandum of understanding with the City of Glens Falls PDA modifying vacation rights of lateral transfers. 12 is a resolution to award bid number CGF 24-07 2024 street resurfacing to Newcastle Paving LLC in the amount of $964,013.12 to authorize the mayor to enter into contract approved by the city attorney. 13 is a resolution to increase revenue line A009999-4089 government aid ARPA by $29,500 and increase A23120-4479 police other contracted services by $29,500 to fund 3 projects for the police department. Store Tech will be updating Ford Station Computers, Hank's Flooring is replacing the locker room, Corecraft is replacing the duty lockers for the department. Total funding for this is $29,473.12 for these repairs and upgrades. And 14 is a resolution to approve the warrant. Do we have a motion for a roll call vote?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Councilman Archibald?
Yes.
Councilman Dunningham?
Yes.
Councilman Thomas?
Yes.
Councilman Michael?
Yes.
And Councilwoman Wood?
Yes.
Thank you. Resolution 6 is a resolution, let me read the resolution first. Under seeker.
There's two points on that that I
Sure.
believe are incorrect. I'm just trying to get to it. Down. I have done myself in. Yeah. Number 4 is check all of the land uses. that
Under the
occur.
seeker? Under the seeker?
Yep.
Okay.
And then number 5 is the check boxes. And that area is definitely adjoining residential.
Karen?
For the applicant, page 1 of 3, question 4 and 5.
We check urban, because urban is inclusive of a variety of land uses, where residential is, as you see the parentheses, suburban.
Okay.
So that's why we do that, and we've done that historically.
Yes.
I'll actually stand up here if you have any other questions.
And number 5 says on page 2 of 3, which is weird because I think it's like right after.
Yeah, 5 is also on page.
So we have
1 of
5
3.
and 5.
It's a state document, so
It says, be consistent with the adopted comprehensive plan. I don't know of the city of Glens Falls adopted comprehensive plan. We're in the process of putting one in, so I don't think that you can say yes that it's consistent with the adopted comprehensive plan. And also that when, in the public comment, the fact that we don't have a comprehensive plan and that this can't be, this comes back to an issue I've had with seeking any kind of zoning changes while we're in the process. This is also near the DRI. It's considered a gateway in some of the DRI documents. So I don't know if it is consistent with that.
So the last comprehensive plan was 20 years ago.
And that was not adopted by the common council. So that wouldn't really be
So there was
adopted.
one before that. There was a comprehensive plan. And so, I mean, you're afraid that it may not be in it, but you don't really know either way.
Oh, it's not for me to prove that.
Yeah,
It's the fact that this is, yes, consistent with it. I don't have to prove a negative.
Again, we fill out the part 1 and you guys review the part 1 and then you guys generate the part 2. So in completing the part 1, and again, this is, and I hate to say, go backwards, Warren Street and Ridge Street, and all of you were not members of the council at those times. What we've done is we based that response on the fact that there is an existing stewards adjacent to the land that we are attempting to rezone. So the adherence to the comprehensive plan is based off the fact that that land use exists,
Okay.
and it's an extension of a zone, not like, if we were to come in and say, attempt to rezone City Hall into something like landfill, that would not be consistent with the comprehensive plan. So that's just.
I don't think that actually is a good example. And I would also say that stewards did not build that building there. There was another building that was a gas station there. And then Stewart's came in and bought that. And you're saying that you want the city to come in and bear the cost of redesigning the intersection because that's something that, you know, you weren't even aware of in the way that you're addressing it.
So
You bought this property, so that's like in the same, you know, in the same.
So a couple of things. We did buy the property, and then since then we have made modifications to the site. So I don't think that analysis or analogy is apples to apples
Okay,
either.
well, we could see about changing the zoning to landfill. So we could go with a, you know, a metaphor that you're more comfortable with.
I'm very comfortable just claiming or just changing the answer to NA so that we can agree to disagree on whether it should be yes or no. And I will initial the submission to achieve that. Yeah. I mean, my example was to try and make it as distant as possible from, you know, the reality or the perception. It was not to try and solicit make the situation worse. We interpreted it as this was the case. Again, when we rezoned the 4 Sherman piece, I think the answer was the same.
Well, at the time of the 4 Sherman piece, I don't believe that the city was engaged in pursuing a comprehensive plan. So things are a little bit different now than they were at that point.
I mean, for Sherman, we just did.
In December.
Right.
You were just as far along as you were then.
But you're saying.
I'm saying
I was actually thinking of the other Stewarts in town that have been updated over that time.
Yeah.
Well, for Sherman is
No.
attached to this property, it would just change the code
Correct.
to GC1,
That's correct.
right?
Yep.
I'm positive that I didn't.
No, you voted no. So we're gonna change.
I'm going to change it to NA, and
That's fine.
I'll initial it to make everyone more comfortable
And
with
we
the
do need your
response.
signature too on
Yep.
my application, on my
Okay.
copy.
That's fine.
Sorry,
That's okay.
that's good. I'm trying to send it to somebody else.
Want to just change?
You want NA?
No, yeah, that's right.
Like right here, just initial this one.
Yep.
Thank you. And the application. I'm sorry.
Is that it?
Yep.
So, resolution 6.
I've got to read part 2.
So before we do the secret first and then read the resolution.
So the applicant has reviewed part 1, so part 2, the board must answer no or small impact or moderate to large impact. Number 1, will the proposed action create a material conflict with an adopted land use plan or zoning regulation? No. Will the proposed action create a change in the use or intensity of the use of land? No or small impact. Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of the existing community? No. Will the proposed action have an impact on the environmental characteristics that cause the establishment of a critical environmental area?
No.
Will the proposed action result in an adverse change in existing level of traffic or affect existing infrastructure for mass transit, biking, and walkway?
No.
Will the proposed action cause an increase in the use of energy and it fails to incorporate reasonably available energy conservation or renewable energy opportunities?
No.
Will the proposed action impair existing public-private water supplies? No. Will the proposed action impact existing public-private wastewater treatment utilities? Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of important historic, archaeological, architectural, or aesthetic resources?
No.
Will the proposed action result in an adverse change to natural resources, wetlands, water bodies, groundwater, air quality, flora, or fauna? Will the proposed action result in an increase in the potential for erosion, flooding, drainage problems? No. Will the proposed action create a hazard to environmental resources or human health? Now, you can read your resolution. It's an unlisted action. You have reviewed part 1 and part 2, and the council could issue a negative declaration.
So if we did that, do we do it for 6 and 7?
Just do 6.
Just for
first.
6.
Yeah.
So 6 is a resolution for secret determination for proposed zoning change local law for 1 Bacon Street, Glens Falls, and 3 Bacon Street, Glens Falls, New York, for the council to approve a negative declaration of non-significance as attached. Roll call vote, please.
Councilman at Large Clark,
Yes.
Councilman Donahue,
Yes.
Councilwoman Palmer,
Yes.
Councilman Wendell,
Yes.
and Councilman Goodman.
Yes.
And so resolution 7,
So 6 carries.
6 carries. Thank you. And 7, resolution to adopt local law to be determined 2-2024 to amend chapter zoning 22006 zoning code to the city of Glens Falls, revise the zoning map to change the zoning district boundary from multifamily residential RM or R-M to general commercial CG1 for 2 parcels, 1 Bacon Street and Glens Falls, New York, tax map number 302.20-21-23, and 3 Bacon Street, Glens Falls, New York, tax map 302.20-21-22. Do we have a motion for a roll call vote?
Can we have a discussion?
Sure.
Because I just would like to discuss some of the things that Claudia brought up. So one of the things that would make me more amenable to approaching this is if we did have a commitment that we would be doing something to improve the traffic and biking and walking infrastructure.
Commitment to more than what's already outlined in the...
There's things that are, there's no commitment. There is an offer, but, it's kind of not a commitment.
Any further discussion?
So there's a part with the amount of money that the city and its stewards might put together. I would like to have that more, that determined and agreed upon before we change this thing. Because the way that Claudia represented it, we could make that determination on zoning and then that could go, nothing could come of that. And then we wouldn't have any, we don't have a real commitment.
Chuck, I have a question for you.
Sure.
The numbers that were generated by you,
They were, again, with me is Mark Cascadlo from MJ. They generated the numbers. I came up with a way to,
Right.
If you were, so what I did was if you were to generate 2 contracts, I basically said because the city has money in its signal budget, existing commitments, that you guys would take care of the electric components, and we would do, for lack of better terms, the earthwork. That's the way I split it. The other side of which is, and I am making this commitment now, stewards write the city a check, and the city could, at its discretion, undertake the project in its entirety. The reason that stewards is here is really twofold. One, when we went to do the analysis for laying out the site as previously, discussed and presented to you, there was an acknowledgement that the existing signal with the existing Stewart's is underperforming. So we're here to attempt to address, that element. The second part of it is that if Stewart's didn't do that, and at some point you guys undertook the investigation of that intersection by yourself, you would have to pay Stewart's, for the land and do the whole signal by yourself. And I'm not, that's not like a threat or anything like that. That's just the way the law and seeker and the rules work. So Stewart's is committing to working with you guys. I think that the understanding or the concept is the project's okay. It's just this mechanism that needs to be worked out.
So if something was drafted up and signatures were had in that regards, and this would have to be in conjunction with the work that you guys are doing, we would have to find the funds to also, at the same time while you're doing the earthwork, we have to find the funds to do the same work.
Yeah, and Mark brought up a good point when I sat down before. Polls are 6 months out. So even if we said today, we're going to proceed, ordering the components is in the future. So what I would like to do, because there are some, Brian kind of discussed like some uncertainties about the project and the timing. What I'd like to do is do like the store component, and again attest to the commitment that we have. I mean,
Right.
we're not going in,
Right.
I don't.
We know where you are.
Yeah. I mean, we have 5 stores in the city. Like it's not.
And we
know where your
and
corporate
you met with
headquarters
us
are.
regarding the Ridge Street property, and you made the changes that we requested, and then as you had agreed to do them, we realized that the city council had asked for changes that weren't actually within the city code. And so when it went in front of the planning board, you had to go back and you had to actually do what the planning board suggested, because what the council had made specific recommendations for was actually against our own code. So that's why I wasn't asking you for a commitment, other than I am going to review it and ask you to make changes. I actually was going to ask you to pay for the whole street light and the street changes. So I was going to ask you for more.
Right.
So that's what I figured we'd negotiate somewhere in between. I also need to look at the budget and we do have money for streetlights, but not necessarily that streetlight. So anyway, I was not concerned about your commitment to the city. You've shown that you're a good faith. I do appreciate that a local attorney had concerns, and now a council person has concerns about the commitment.
I would also say that it is the duty of the common council to weigh in on fiduciary matters.
Sure.
That's something so just saying that, well, that's okay, we can do this after the fact, is not something that I feel that I can do, take lightly.
I didn't ask you to, but so what are you asking for a commitment for? You want Stewart's to commit to paying at least the amount that you
I
have
want there to
suggested?
be an agreement before we, because at the point that we give the zoning change approval, we have, at such a point too, when we really should be looking very, very closely at any time doing any kind of zoning change at present, because we have 3 different things going on at this time that could affect zoning, between DRI, between DOA, and between the comprehensive plan. I would say that for me to feel comfortable, I would want to have commitments through, because I don't have anything otherwise. Because at the point that I say, here you go, here's your different zoning, then I don't have any word left to say on the matter. As we just talked about, this would not be coming back to the council.
So here's, and again, I try to, I don't sit on a common council. I sit on a planning board. It's a different animal, and I don't have these responsibilities, and I get it. So here's what I would like to do. you know, I never, when I put $163,000 in a, you know, cost sharing mechanism, I did not anticipate that my number was going to go down. So what I would like to do, if acceptable to the council, because I would like to start the planning process and work on some of the other elements, which again, like we've took away a canopy, we've went from 4 pumps to 3, we've worked with everyone and the neighbors. What I'd like to do is, if you are willing to approve the zoning and the zone change, I'm willing to make a commitment that a contingency or a condition of approval be Stewart's is what enters into a host benefit agreement, which is an agreement between Stewart's and the city for cost sharing, where Stewart's portion of that is no less than $163,000. And if you guys are willing to do that, Matt and Karen can draft it, and then we will return to go through what the dollars and cents are. But you know, to Ms. Dickinson at 1 and the Herities at 3 and kind of even to Brian at 5, there's a level of uncertainty that I would like to move past. So if that's acceptable, I will make that condition or make that request of you today.
So is that, would we put that in the condition of
You would
the,
put
in
it
the resolution?
In the resolution,
Okay.
with the condition that there is a commitment for a host benefit agreement where Stewart's would contribute not less than $163,000, and an agreement approved by city attorney and Stewart's attorney.
And the council.
And
Yeah.
Does that satisfy your thinking, Council?
Yeah.
Is there any?
Is Stewart's, are you open to paying for all of this?
Not in its entirety.
No, okay.
Okay.
Okay, because you just said you're not sure we have the money for that.
Yeah, right. We had money. He was correct in hearing clearly when I talked about we had money for streetlights. I don't think that was one of the lights that we had currently in our budget. But no, that's why I said that we negotiated. So I need to look at all of it and see what else can be done. So that makes me comfortable. If it makes Councilman Lappin comfortable.
Okay, but I just like to, so the finance part is a big part, because this really just came before us, this financial part. So, I mean, this is a big concern of ours because it was not in our budget. And this is a Stewart's project. You've endured a lot of our housing, 1 and 3 Bacon, and I just think that when you go back, I think you should really look into really financing some of this, because this is not in our budget. And this is something that Stewart's want to do. And we could do it later, but it is not in our budget right now.
And
So can you, I'm just saying possibility, look at it and maybe come up with some lower numbers?
I would love to, because as a business, we actually don't like to spend money.
We don't. We don't.
As a taxpayer, I appreciate it when you don't spend money. But understanding that there's I think, you know, a win-win here, you know, to be had.
It is a win, kind of.
Well,
But we have to.
even the owner of 7.
Went to Stewart's.
No, I understand that, but
And I'm not against Stewart's.
No. I don't think who's against Stewart's?
Right.
But I do think that the other side of this is in identifying the fact that the intersection operates as poorly as it does, and the issuance of the negative declaration, there's an acknowledgement that this is moving in the right direction. So I cannot, because as much as you don't like spending money, I like to make money, and if I sit here today and say, we're gonna fund all of it, I will no longer make money for Stewart's and will be forced to seek other employment. So what I will do is I will say we will,
Not less than 100.
not less than 163,000, but not, 365,000. So that's my,
What would, I hadn't had time to consider Attorney Bramer's comments ahead of time about the parcels. I'm just wondering, she made a comment about you could do this without both properties. Can you
yeah, I
respond
mean,
to that?
I did, I had a Teams call, with Claudia, and one of the things, and I started to, and I now owe the city $65.
You're gonna pay for that check.
Right. So I don't have a ruler because I've lost my little pocket square, if you will. But part of the problem is if you take like this building and you put it in here, you're still putting a driveway here, and then you lose, this driveway, and you're pushing everything toward this crosswalk. So you really can't. I mean, I came in with the idea that we would just leave the existing store and put gas here, but we physically, it doesn't work. And the idea of the turn lane wasn't, this actually is gonna, to an extent, be more detrimental to the access to Stewart's, because you're still, now instead of having one lane that stacks, you're gonna have 2 lanes, with the driveway back here. So there is an element where we're acknowledging the problem and trying to solve a for lack of better terms, a public issue. And it's not like the turn lane isn't an implement of Stewart's. The turn lane is an implement of your existing traffic. You have, your existing traffic problem.
So you're saying without both properties, you would have to push the building and the.
We'd have to turn, yeah, well, first of all, we'd have to close the existing store, which I think is as I understand it, a large walk-up, a high EBT, high milk, high dairy, high egg store. You would lose that for, 10 weeks. And then you would turn the building, and the building would be in here, and you still wouldn't have a Bacon Street driveway. So you still would need a driveway back here, which would mean taking 3 Bacon anyway. And then that would force a driveway on Glens Street all the way toward the crosswalk. So what we've tried to do is stay away from any improvements that affect the corner itself. So that's why we have our landscape out in the corner, and we moved the canopy, to the Sherman side.
So Chuck, why wouldn't you put the Stewart's on the corner and move the gas pumps over to the other side and build your store first?
Because put the store in here?
Right there.
Because you would open the entire thing up to Brian's house. Because then Brian would live next to a gas canopy.
Brian
There's
is,
5 Bacon.
but if you didn't need 3.
He's Brian.
Yeah, I know. But do you need 3 Bacon then?
Right.
Yeah, because you can't do the driveway, because does anyone have a ruler?
Even if
Right.
you push the canopy, if you had the canopy there, you couldn't.
Put-
I'm just like.
You would put the canopy here,
Right.
because the flip side of which is, because even if you look at this today, this is not, like the intersection is not a complete it's not perpendicular.
Right, it's not.
So because it's in obtuse angles, if you put the store in here, you would put the canopy here, and that's Brian.
I just assumed you couldn't do it because why would you buy 2 properties? Why would you invest in 2 properties if you didn't need 2 properties? Especially when you came to us didn't ask for those 2 properties when you were gonna, when you originally started.
Again, my returning to this board is strictly because my fear was if we went for site plan to the planning board with the original plan, it would have been at that time identified that the intersection is problematic, and you know, I don't know what that future is. This future, while slightly more painful on the financial side to stewards and contributing toward the intersection improvement, is the best thing for both stewards and the city. And you're right, like if I could do it with one, even if it was just one property, I would do it, but I physically can't do it, and that's what I'm telling you here tonight.
You got 145,000 for traffic safety, correct?
Yeah,
You have-
that includes the poles.
All right. Do you have something from the manufacturer, anything like that, considering that? I mean, maybe an invoice or something?
No, well that I mean, so Mark,
We did an engineer's estimate based on prior installations.
and
So you don't have an invoice or anything showing
But it's
145,000?
based on previous expenses.
I just think you're talking about 192,000 people sitting in this house. And right now, ARPA funds are pretty much all earmarked. So,
What's not in the engineer's estimate is the value of the land for that turn lane, which stewards will be donating.
Stewards is donating to the city, giving to the city.
oh, and then that's probably on that budget. That's the lowest, probably the lowest cost. But again, it doesn't. I don't. There's two ways to go about it. One is we've already made the commitment about the 100. The other side of it is we can write you a check, and you guys at your discretion can undertake it with the understanding that we'll donate the land and everything at that time. We're just basically saying that if you don't change the zoning, everything's going to continue to be, substandard, and we're not going to. The window is going to close, and we're not going to be able to do it. So you guys do have the ability and the authority to undertake it at your discretion. You could do it in 2025, you could do it in 2026. And we can, negotiate that agreement over the next couple of months. That's really your call as a council. It's just at this time, we've identified the problem. We're willing to work with you on a solution. And if we went the other way, I don't know what that solution would have looked like.
So how would that impact your sidewalks and things like that? Because obviously,
Yeah, I mean, we would make improvements that would have to be torn up. Yeah, 100%. But again,
It solves a problem that you helped us identify.
yeah, I mean,
Ben agreed that it was a terrible, I didn't realize that was such a failure I just never realized. I actually had no complaints about it. I just didn't know.
Oh,
how bad
there's
that
one
was.
person on the Board of Public Safety who says that she thinks it's great.
the stacking,
What's that?
the stacking.
The intersection.
It's a fail, right?
Yeah, it's a-
She thinks it's great today.
Yeah, she says it's her favorite intersection in Glens Falls.
sarcastic or?
No.
does she know?
No.
Well,
Traffic
but you agreed that it is
circulation.
hard.
Yeah,
Right, and you had trouble crossing, because several other people said
terrible.
afterwards.
It's
they said
terrible,
how bad it
and
was.
a lot of people cross there. There's a lot of apartments, and
Well-
people walk over to Stewart's crossing there. It's tough.
It's on it operates at an E and an F today. I mean,
Mayor, I think we have
Yeah.
a suggestion plan. I'm willing to move that motion forward if there's a second.
Do we have a second?
Second.
for it? So roll call vote, please.
Councilman Schler.
Yes.
Councilman Donahue.
yes,
Councilwoman Brennan.
Yes.
Councilman Marshall.
Yes.
And Councilman Wood.
Yes.
Thank you.
okay, so I'll let's just for 1 second. I know we beat up a little bit, but let's just talk about how you want to proceed. So Mark has the estimate. I'll schedule an appointment with the mayor. We'll go through the estimate, and then I'll come back, and we can decide 2025, 2026, whatever you guys really want. But I assure you, we're not. This is not a bait and switch. It's recorded. and I will sign the host benefit agreement. I thank you for your time. It is an opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank you
for
so much.
walking through that.
Under old business, I want to give you a DRI update review. So,
We're rolling out the money now, aren't we?
for you. 1, 2, 3, 4. I sent you this document last night. And it's short, it's a part of the presentation, but it's just a short piece. It's the one that I thought that you might be least familiar with. So, let me start by reviewing with you. So there were, excuse me, 1 second, I got grabbed the wrong document. If I don't stick to my notes, this will take too long. So the unofficial announcement of the housing, so in April, the governor announced that the Housing and Community Renewal Office in New York State tax credits were approved for, and that cleared a lot of hurdles that we were waiting on to move forward with many of the elements of the DRI. I can't overstate the importance of the state's DRI program and the HCR housing tax credits. With the current interest rates and inflation, the developer was saying that he could not move forward with either phase 1 or phase 2 of his development project without these tax credits. So the governor's approval of it, although the money is just for phase 2, and I'll talk to you about that in just a second, none of that phase 1 or 2 would be moving forward without it. So remind ourselves about the original proposal of the DRI. It says the South Street project will create a dynamic mixed-use facilities providing space for a year-round market, incubator kitchen, retail, restaurant locations on both South and Elm Streets, as well as community and event space. And then, so Glens Falls was awarded the DRI in the very first year of its offerings. And if we move forward as we now have the green lights in all the projects, the city of Glens Falls would be the third DRI fully completed across the state, even though right now they're in round 9 of the DRI. Only Oswego and Islip have announced full completion of their DRI projects. Several DRI elements that have already been completed is the SUNY Adirondack culinary relocation in downtown Glens Falls in 2018. The Arts District Public Arts Trail in downtown Glens Falls was completed in October 2022. And let's not forget about the downtown murals. The Downtown Business Revitalization Revolving Loan Grant has also been established and is almost completely spent. That is DRI money, as well as several improvements to green infrastructure on South and School Streets that are underway and will be completed this fall. The 3 major development projects that are left to be completed, the first one we broke ground in October is the Market Center. It's probably the thing that most people are aware of in the Market Center. This is a completed project that's standing across the street on South. This would be the old Hot Shots building. You'll note there's a pocket park that's in part of this, and that is has been approved, and that is now green lighted, as well as this. And so this construction started last October and will be completed this later this year, this fall. This year-round market design will allow us to have all-weather event space, able to open to outside performance areas. Think of Quincy Market, but on a much smaller scale. We just had great meetings with the farmers markets, and they're excited about the possibilities this opportunity offers, this project offers. Here's another view of the same piece, but from the upper air, and you'll notice back here there's a lot that's we're planning to have a portable stage back there as well, And so you'll be able to have vendors on the outside of the building as well as inside the building on both sides, and music in the far corner. And you'll notice here it shows that there are events. The object is to have vendors both on Elm Street and South Street at some of those events. This kind of shows you a shadow if you're looking through the empty building on the corner. So that is the current market center, and again, it'll be done this fall. And stop me if you have any questions about that, but I'll kind of run through it until we get to the part where we're talking about the market center. Market square. So this is an overall a picture of the whole thing. So there's your market center that we just talked about, and the event space behind it. This is the old Hot Shots building, this is the old Sandy's building, and this is the incubator building. This is called Phase 1, and we're looking to break ground. They'll have purchased these properties all complete by this July, to break ground by this August. I'm going to talk about this Phase 1 last, but I wanted you to be able to see it in conjunction with the whole thing. This is Phase 2, and this is the part that the governor just announced. So you'll notice that where there is none right now, you'll have a 3-story, maybe 4-story building with retail on South Street that runs from the old Sandy's building to the hot dog shop. And then there's a kind of I call it a connector building. And then this is 70 apartments that go on Elm Street and face out, and that's those apartments. The total, this is where the tax credits that the governor just announced, and it's the thing that gives everything the green light. There will be several commercial spaces on the ground floor on South Street, which is consistent with the current zoning. And so those commercial spaces, they're looking for tenants right now, and right now it looks like SUNY Adirondack is interested in leasing one of the commercial spaces to offer their students, their technology students, that the largest student group is a gaming group, and they want to make that the home of their Adirondack gaming program of that retail. Above it is both between these upper floors and these are a total of 72 apartments that are mixed use and residential apartment building. 70 workforce, what we call workforce housing. That language really is out of date. But it's on a sliding fee scale for these the people that live here. Up to 30% are people of low income or people with disabilities. And then the other 60% are on a sliding fee scale where you can make up to about $70,000 a year. And if you make, say, $60,000, you might pay a few hundred less than what's considered to be market rate. And all the way, let's say you make $40,000 a year, you might only pay half of what market rate is. And the tax credit that the governor gave is to make up the difference of that. It's got to be maintained for at least 30 years and managed by, it's not Bonaccio Construction, but Bonaccio Development, Spring City Development. And they have to maintain those rates or they don't get the tax credits. And so that is Phase 2. There is no grant money in the DRI associated, but Bonaccio was telling us if he didn't get the tax credits, that the project of Phase 1 wasn't enough alone. So, moving on, any questions about that in particular? So the next phase, which is Phase 1, includes 3 buildings. The old Sandy's building that Bonaccio bought many years ago for about $300,000. The old Hot Shots building and the old incubator building. The old Hot Shots building has been almost 15 years empty. Sandy's has only been about 5 or 7 years empty. And then the old incubator building, they called it the incubator building with the hopes that someday it would incubate space, bring businesses into Glens Falls to grow, and it's been empty for well over 30 years. It was a brownfield that had been remediated and left empty. These 2 buildings are owned by the LDC, the Glens Falls LDC, and Bonaccio is purchasing them, like I said, The goal is to close on those buildings by the middle of July, and that would mean, it requires in their contract that they would break ground on this phase one, on all these three buildings by the middle of August, 30 days from when we close. They're looking at a host for a restaurant and bar here, and then apartments. These will be regular market rate apartments above Sandy's. They're looking for a host of like a farm-to-table restaurant that would go here, and then above that are market rate apartments as well. And then this is what's called Market Square, was in the original DRI. We're going to talk more about that, but above that will be market rate apartments, a total of about 28 apartments between the upper floors of Sandy's, the upper floors of Hot Shots, and the upper floors of the Incubator building. So the thing that I think that most people are not aware of or not remembering of is that building was built in the 1920s, has a long history of making t-shirts and ladies lingerie, and finally is a restaurant and supply house. For nearly 30 years it's been empty, and they've been calling it an incubator building. The original DRI said in the DRI proposal was that the DRI in general would be a destination project that capitalizes on the region's agricultural, cultural, culinary heritage and create a vibrant hub and unique experience. The project can curate and support retailers and businesses that might not be able to find space elsewhere. It can help promote visitorship and support emerging food businesses. If successful, these businesses with existing roots in downtown may choose to expand in the nearby underutilized projects. Here's another vision of it would be, so this is that, this is Sandy's, and that's that, Sandy's, the bottom floor with commercial, and then these are the apartment buildings. This is where the old farmer's market was in that parking lot. Questions, please ask while I grab the next set of slides. So the thing that I wanted to talk most about, the thing that we're most excited about, is the Market Square, the incubator. So the Market Square has three core businesses. I sent this document to you. It's specifically what this document is referring to. One is that it's a maker's market. They're thinking at this point, we've been in conversations with Taste of New York, and their model is about 80% food related and 20% gift or art related in a regular Taste of New York, and that's what we're thinking as well. So the object is to start with businesses that are already producing retail stuff and selling it on their own. That we know that right away, like a place like Cooper's Caves makes soda, ice cream, and beer, and offering them a space for next to nothing to help promote and bring. So you might buy some Cooper's Cave soda if you like it. The whole object is to get you to go to Cooper's Cave and go to dinner or buy their beer or their soda or their ice cream there. We're also thinking that many companies, let's see, before I go on, also are thinking that maybe some of the tenants of the t-shirt factory that might be, say, making candles, if they're making it. It was great when we met with the folks from Taste of New York, because they use three things. It's either created, grown, or produced in New York State. We're thinking a little more local, but it would be growers first in Glens Falls, or growers or producers in Glens Falls, makers in Glens Falls, but also Warren County, Washington, and northern Saratoga County. So it would be a regional market is the hope. The second piece of this business is, there would be definitely a place where we've been talking to the farmers market, and they've been part of these. We created some subcommittees of people to help develop a business plan and a market, and what you've seen is where we are with that currently. So we're hoping that those farmers would want to put their products in here too. The The second piece would be a commercial kitchen. The commercial kitchen would serve multi-purpose. We believe there are restaurants right now that are producing food and they're busy running their business and they would like to expand, but they either don't want to invest in the equipment. Let's say Talk of the Town, I love their pizza, but you have to buy it from there only. But for them to pay attention to that, to the packaging, to the labeling, they tend to be barriers to people already running businesses. This commercial kitchen would be a place, and we've been talking to SUNY Adirondack about them providing some of their culinary students and paid internships so that they could help, and we could say to Talk of the Town, look, give us 24 of your pizzas. We'll show you how we can wrap them, package them, and label them. If they sell, you take 95% of the cost. We'll take 5% of the cost. But the deal is about pushing people back to the Talk of the Town. If you like it, then you could apply to the LDC to cover the packaging and the equipment costs. Same with the example we've been using is, my favorite is the buffalo chicken soup at Davidson Brothers. I love it. Asking them to do it, and then helping them package it and label it. If they like it, then they could buy the equipment through a grant, the LDC. That's the object of the LDC, is to help these businesses grow. Also, I've got people like my cousin Mary Ellen who makes pies but doesn't have a commercial kitchen. She can only make certain kind of pies. In the evening, she could come in at a reduced rate after the rest of the place is closed, and she could do that, and hopefully if she then wanted to grow her business, she'd be able to apply to the LDC and get that equipment so that she does make a great pie, but she can only make certain kinds because she doesn't have a certified commercial kitchen. So that's the object of that. And the third, we also want to, like when there's a beer festival, remember, right outside these doors is the market center. So if we had a beer festival in Glens Falls, we want all of this to be movable, except the actual kitchen itself in the far corner of the building, so that the local brewers might be giving out beer or highlighting their products during that weekend to make sure it's flexible. If there's around special events that might be happening. We also thought that there might be farmers who want to do teaching commissions, so we've got to make sure it's got technology in the mirrors so that people can see them and that people can come and hold classes. My dream is to get the Rios family from Ridge Terrace to come to the market and teach a class on their sauces that they're so known for. Then the third piece of this is, so the commercial kitchen would be over in this corner of the building. Again, behind us is the market center, and then the full wall-to-wall is a technology screen. We've been in conversations with Warren County. Sarah Frankenfeld at GIS, she actually has an app that she's using, created, I believe, for recreation places throughout the county, and we're talking to her. And so the object of this is to say on one side of this would be the map of Glens Falls, that when you first look at it would show that if these are potatoes made in the market in an Argyle farm, that they'd be able to see that those potatoes are made there, and they could put their phone up and get the information and get those potatoes and learn about that grower straight there, and it's to push them to those businesses. But we're also thinking that this would be great for the rest of the county. If you've got Oscar Smokehouse selling you their smoked sausage, that you could also then see Warren County and Washington County. We believe that this would be a generation, it's supposed to be pushing businesses. Again, the object is to bring people in so they can try different products and then get out into the community to promote it. It's not about this market competing with other markets, and we need to make sure we're very clear with that with other restaurants, the growers, the artists, that it's about exposing that to them. There are subcommittees for each of these different components, and one also for a management committee of how the finances are going to work for each of these projects and products. I just talked way too much, way too fast, but I wanted you to have it. I'm going to ask Jeff to come in the next few weeks and give you an update on budgets. Right now, this doesn't affect the city budget at all. The buildings are owned by the LDC. Bonaccio is buying them from the LDC. The LDC is signing a 10-year lease on that market, so they're paying that lease, and their goal is to get it to be self-sustaining. There may be some equipment costs that they can't cover, but they're trying. That's what their goal is, to get grants. They've got the Warren County EDC agreed to already provide some employment grants. We're working with partners to bring it in. We've got Warren County Tourism very interested in this to promote and get people to go to different locations throughout Warren County. And I'm sorry, I just keep going. I don't know how to, it's an awful lot to, but I'll let you ask any questions you have, and even if you don't think of them now, you can always call or answer later. Also, Mary might have many of your questions if you'd like. She's on the LDC board, so she could give you some information as well.
So Mayor, you talked about once you guys close on the buildings with once Spring Street development closes on the Spring City closes on them in January at some point in time. Groundbreaking will begin in August.
Yeah, that's the goal. The goal is for them to close the middle of this coming month in July, and then they would be 30 days is in the contract that they'll break ground. So they'll break ground in phase 1. Phase 2 probably won't break ground until late fall. We're hoping that they'll break ground in phase 2 by January, and so that's the goal for that.
Thank you.
So the building you were just talking about will be owned by the LDC, you said?
Yes.
And then the Leaf Market Center?
I'm sorry, the building that we were just talking about, the old incubator building, will actually be owned by Bonaccio and leased. The bottom floor is going to be leased by them for 10 years.
Okay, and then the city will own just the place where the farmers market and other events will go?
That's correct.
And then I know you said that you're still working on budget stuff, but I was looking through this, and so like the general manager reports to the LDC. Does the LDC pay the general manager's salary?
Absolutely.
Okay. And do they also pay like insurance for the building and utilities, building upkeep?
Yeah.
And you have all of that in the LDC budget to cover all those costs? Okay.
And the budgets aren't finalized, so it's all, they know they've got $400,000 coming from the sale of those buildings, and their object is to get the grants to cover the growing of the businesses and to break. They also are thinking about, they don't want to be in the long-term business, so they're thinking to find a group of business leaders such as they found with the Civic Center Coalition sooner than later, and that's why they're starting to invite all those different kinds of people to come, share their ideas, and like the people like the Webbers that own the brewery, Bert and his daughter are both coming, and it's fantastic. So as soon as they can, they want it to get to be self-sustaining and let business leaders help lead.
Okay, so all of the people that would need to work there, like the interns that are paid, would we pay the interns, or the LDC pays the interns?
And LDC would, and would be doing the contracts with it. They don't know how all that's going to work out yet, but yeah, the intention, that's why the intention is that. I think that I'm kind of hoping that maybe the DPW can help with the maintenance of the building for a very little bit at the beginning, but right now it's all the LDC's responsibility and is developing those budgets and plans. But I'll try to cheat and help in any way we can without and when their ideas, again, these subcommittees are kind of looking, exploring at all these ideas. So if any of them say, well, can the city help with it? I'd come to you and say, what can the city do?
But at this point, just so the the city budget and the taxpayers are not gonna be funding the running of this at all, from what you're telling me. The LDC has agreed and has the money to do it, and it's coming out of their budget. Okay. I was looking through like some of the last minutes of the LDC meetings and I didn't see that, so I just wanted to make sure that that was
Well, and that's because
articulated.
those budgets haven't been really developed yet.
Yeah.
The intention is not to, that the city can't do it, right? The city doesn't own the buildings, and they also, remember, the LDC owns the Tech Meadows. And so, well, it's very good news to the LDC. They can breathe a little lighter when they realize that, hey, some of that sales of those properties, if Crew Coffee does build it, is helps them. But the straight answer is none of this is right now on the city taxpayers. But it's not clear as to how the LDC is going to make all this work. So they know, though, that, right, the DRI, this is how it was written and configured. So we're working hard with them to try to help cover that, right? But not from city taxpayers. More of LDC gets grants to help businesses grow. That's where the EDC has already offered to help, right? We know that Christine Duffy said, yeah, we got students that can really use life experience. We're going to reach out to BOCES too. But most of those are all paid internships. And right now, the LDC would have to cover that. So they're concerned, but working hard. That's why the meeting, this building probably won't be open for at least a little over a year. But they're working on this now like it was tomorrow because the year's going to melt quick.
And would the general manager of the incubator building also manage the marketplace?
Oh, you haven't got that far. Yes, right. Oh, wait. Yes, I thought you were asking about Market Square, right? And that's the problem. It's confusing, Market Square versus Market Center. Yes, right now they know they need at least one full-time manager that would manage all three pieces of that business, but they're going to need support, and that's why there's 3 different committees all trying to figure out how that would work. Where can we get grant money to help pay for the? I think the first big grant that they're going to working on trying to get submitted in the next month and a half is the wayfinding technology piece, because they know that there's a state grant that is available for this, and the fact that we're talking to New York, Taste of New York will help in that application.
Thanks for giving us an update.
Oh, thank you. I'm sorry that it takes so long. It's a lot, and so next we'll get you, and you can work on ideas and ask anytime, but you'll also, I'm sure, get more when you get the overall DRI budget and talk about the different facilities, and so I'm sure there'll be lots of great discussions. You guys would love you to join any of those subcommittees. If any of you have been, I know you probably are the person I know closest that really has technology experience. So please come to one of those meetings, right? I'm so grateful that people like Sarah Frankenfeld, and I'm going to say this, and it's going to sound terrible, but younger people, right? And I just know that it's nothing that the LDC board is not very young, and they're excited about it, but there's more I don't know about wayfinding than I do know about it. We need to understand that, and I was so grateful to hear Sarah say, well, I've developed something that might actually work for this, and it's a piece of what would be GIS, but she developed a certain thing just for the rec stuff, and so at least gave us an idea of how to start. We don't know if we'll end up there, but it's a great idea, right? So it's all under discussion, and it's great to listen to the different people kick around. Hey, have you thought about this? That's why we met this past week with the Department of Health and, Ag and Markets, because they both oversee commercial kitchens, and Taste of New York is part of Ag and Markets. So it was great to have those people say, hey, there's a place similar, different but similar in Binghamton. We're thinking of taking some day trips out to Binghamton to go and visit and see what they're doing. Many of their markets too are managed by Cornell Cooperative Extensions. And so that's all great news.
And Mayor, there's one in SUNY Colesville that would sort of fits this as well, and the college does have interns working there. So,
Fantastic.
and it works well for them.
Yeah. That's all I had for old business. Is there anybody else has any old, I should go around the room.
I have none.
I'm old enough.
Old enough, no more old business.
Ed, you're very full.
I don't have any old business either. Congratulations to your son and all the other graduates.
And I'm sorry, I just saw your text, so thank you very much. And Sadie played in the band.
Yeah, I actually watch the whole live stream. I always like tune in to start watching her, but then I get sucked in by the student speeches and I sit there kind of all emotional. No, they're not my kids. And your wife got to give him his applause, which is really sweet.
So it's amazing how many staff people had kids graduating this year and any year. It's really a testament to our community and our school district. So if you ever run for school board, you can give your child if they walk across the stage, you can give your child their diploma. So it's awesome, and the school district is just we're very fortunate and blessed. So and Sadie got some shout outs too with all her athletic achievements at the sports ceremony for spring sports. So you got quite a little athlete, I can tell you. Yeah, and in everything else she does. So very proud. Very proud. Sorry.
Mary, any old business? Okay, new business. I have some more, passing this along. It is a draft. I asked Suzanne, not Kasich, Suzanne Jeff and Pat's administrative assistant. Suzanne Scott. She came up with, asked her to think about what a city flag might look like. She came up with a bunch of different designs. We passed it along to staff members on all the floors of the of City Hall. This was overwhelming the favorite. We wanted to keep it simple. I'd love you to take it. If you have any suggested changes, we'd love to hear them. And if not, then we'll get a few made and we'll put it on our flagpole. That's all I've got, but I'm loving to. Discussion on city fees charged for mural type artwork displays. That's the printed new business. So Ben, did you want to start the conversation?
Yeah, it's just in buildings and codes, we had a conversation about some stuff that was brought to our attention and some emails that went back before the mayor was in about how artwork had been, the background was that the city planning board needs to have a mechanism to review public art. So the interpretation at that point was that they could be viewed as signage, but that the mayor at the time wasn't going to collect fees on public art just for signage for commercial purposes. So we were thinking that it's not very clear in the code, which we hear this a lot. So we were thinking that we could get something in to define what a mural is, and in the meantime, we could go back to, or we could pass a resolution to reflect what the policy had been and just put a moratorium on murals that are for the sake of public art versus commercial purposes.
So I'm passing out to you what the current sign chapter is. I wasn't aware that previous mayors hadn't. I did, the recent mural art history that I could find was in 2020. Hill Electric and Park and Elm both applied and paid for mural fees as a sign.
Those are both commercial entities, so
Yeah.
it would be consistent.
Our sign ordinance was revised in 2011. It was initially enacted in 1973. 2011, there were a major overhaul to it, and there's different types of signs defined. One is an accessory sign, but two is a non-accessory sign, which is any sign unrelated to a business or profession conducted or to a commodity or service sold or offered on the premises. Under signage, it specifically talks about painted wall signs. So
anyway,
under general regulations F, we do define wall signs, and that they go before the sign review board, which is a segment of the planning board.
so anyway, when we were at the meeting, we were discussing that we would like to put together a moratorium so that public art can be encouraged in the city. And that this is consistent with what Mayor Hall is doing for recognizing signage, and it was by one of the prior code enforcement officers who was saying that he was following the mayor's point of view. So that's why we put that together. That came out of the committee.
That was the previous code enforcement officer.
Mm-hmm. So two prior. Or might
Chris
even be
Sanders, he
Chris.
sent
Yeah.
an email where he classified, murals are classified as signs. Because your mural will be larger than 100 square feet, it will have to go in front of the sign review board like your last sign. He says there's no fee for that, and I do not charge a permit fee for the actual mural. I don't know where he got the authority to do that, because we went back through the code records, and in 2020...
It was because it was a mural. That was just kind of...
Well, there were murals paid for in
The ones that you're
2020.
talking about were commercial. When we were talking about the one at Hill Electric. that you
Hill
just said
Electric
before.
it's not to promote their...
It says Hill Electric right on the mural. Have you seen it?
I have seen it. I live
Do
around
you see where it says Hill Electric on
But
it?
it, it's whether it's an accessory or non-accessory sign
It's-
or painted wall art.
There was
It's
an
all a sign.
there was an existing thing from the prior mayor, which was not to collect murals.
Was that in writing?
No.
It was the thing that Chris Vanderzeen was saying.
With that email?
I don't believe that to ever be the policy.
Right, and that, I mean, that's a
That
fiduciary,
would
that's
then
a
come before
fiduciary
the common
thing
council
too.
to say, don't charge for murals.
Right.
Did we charge people for the stuff on the electric boxes that they painted and all these like murals that we have downtown now?
Yes.
That are,
Murals they did,
The
but the
arts
electric
district.
boxes, I can't find
The
any
arts
record.
district paid for
Yeah, they
it?
did.
Absolutely.
Okay, because what we were told at the meeting when Ben brought this up, was that, what our code enforcement officer told us was that he was using signs because it was the only way he could get planning board review, but that he didn't really feel they felt like their signs. That's why this discussion happened. That's what he told us, and that's also what the fire chief, said, so.
And also,
I've been sitting as an assistant city attorney and on the planning board for years, and they've always acted as a board of sign review. And there's been other murals, Hill Electric, Park Theater. They've all been before the
St.
planning board,
Mary's.
and they've all
St. Mary's.
paid. St. Mary's paid.
Yeah, and the UNDOT paid as well.
In '22, Eric Unkoff applied for 153 Maple. He did a sign permit application, but was not charged the fee. In =23, Eric Unkoff applied for 3 murals and paid a $150 fee for each. And in '24, he did his application again and paid $150 per, and it was 6 signs at that point. So I don't know why that was said at a meeting, because it's just factually not true.
Well, I would say that it is the city's intent to support public art. So I'm surprised that there's, when we've had a history of not collecting those, that that there's this rush to consider public art to be commercial signage. And I'd still like to go forward with a resolution to put in front of the council to treat public art differently than we treat commercial signage.
Even though
since
we've
20
been charging since 2020
Since
for both.
2020 is where our records go back, because that's when they went electronic. There were 16 murals and only one was not charged a fee.
Well, I think we should have another discussion at our next committee meeting, given the information. Or maybe you can come, Karen, when we schedule the meeting. Just
Yeah, Karen, because like I wrote up something and you never responded to me about it, so it makes it very difficult
This
for me.
attachment that you sent, this
Yes.
one?
Yeah,
Okay.
you never responded. You said that you didn't get
I
it,
didn't
and then you
get it,
said one, and then you go,
said,
yep, I got
I didn't know I was supposed to respond to you.
it. I mean, that was, I believe that Diana reached out to you a few weeks ago.
She
and
sent it to
didn't
me on
respond.
May 10th at 9:54 at night and brought it up at the next meeting, Common Council. And then
I have
you
a
sent
history
it.
of not getting responses.
What does that have to do with this situation?
Well, this is because she didn't give a response to me, and
I
now
don't
she has
have
all
to
of this
give you a
extra.
response, Ben.
Look, she has this
I don't have to give
information.
you a response.
I don't think I brought up anything about you responding to me at the council meeting. I just gave a committee report that we were discussing it. All I'm saying now is
We need to go back.
we should talk about it. That's
Let's
all
go
I'm
back
saying.
and talk about
It
it.
came up for the first
It's-
time at the last codes committee because Councilman Lapham asked us to discuss it. That was the information we got from our employees.
That was because of Eric's email and,
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, and then because of the input we got from our staff, we said, well, maybe we should pause and consider if we need to distinguish between the two. And that was the only question. But I think that it sounds like before we pass a resolution of any kind, if we are going to, we should talk about it more. And I think, Karen, if you wouldn't mind joining us, I don't have it scheduled yet because we're waiting for all these budget meetings to end. Then we can, yeah. But I never emailed you at 9:55 and then asked you the next day at a
You
council
did.
meeting.
I have it. You did.
I-
You sent it to me on Monday, June 10th at 9:34 at night.
I know.
Signs and murals.
Yeah, but then I didn't
And then you
expect.
brought it up the next night at the Common Council meeting.
it was the budget, our budget meeting.
No, it was the next night at the Common Council meeting.
I
2 weeks
brought,
ago.
I brought it up as a report, a committee report, that's all. I was, yeah, as a,
So we also, we can, I think it's great if you go back and talk about it. It's clearly that we have not distinguished, and there are articles written about not distinguishing between art murals and commercial murals because it's very difficult to do. It's not advised by
New York State.
By New York State, that PJ found. But you guys should go back and have that conversation. It's very unclear too if Eric actually, so I believe that he did pay for some. I'm not sure which ones they were.
Paid for
he's-
7 out of 8.
but I also don't know if those 7 are inclusive of the building next to my building that he bought, or the roof of that building, or the other building that's in between the old, the community action building, and that's okay. I mean, I don't, I think PJ said that when Eric talked to him, he said Eric said that he had never paid it before, so apparently Eric didn't even remember that he'd already paid it a year before. And PJ,
No, he remembered it because he asked for a refund if we decided to do a moratorium, $750.
okay.
So he remembered.
I
He
got
remembered.
you. Okay.
Well,
So,
you paid it last summer as well.
and one of the things that, when the mural garden came forward, my question to Ethan Hall back then was, is it okay to take storage containers and scatter them throughout a building or, excuse me, a
Are
property.
we off topic now?
No, because the reason that it was approved by the planning board is that these were not to be considered containers because they would be additional structures. They were to be considered canvases for art, and that it would be artwork. And so the planning board approved it based on it being artwork and being a sign. And so it has to be, they have to be secured, and they can't be used for anything else, or their accessory storage and mandatory setbacks will occur. So I think that you can't have it both ways. Either they're artwork and signs, and they don't, and that setbacks don't count, or they're structures, and therefore setbacks do, and then, you know, then it's a different situation.
Check it.
Right. So anyway, I think that you have the conversation. We should look at, there is some inconsistency. Diane, I can't find any record so far of us charging, we did charge the Arts District for the murals. And we did actually approve in CBG money, some money for a mural on Warren Street because it wasn't within the Arts District. That the city was going to give to the Arts District to do it because the DRI money wasn't approved because it wasn't in the prescribed area. Also, though, I don't think that there were applications or any money for the the electrical boxes. So we haven't been consistent in a lot of it. And so I think you should, you know, decide and take a look objectively and see what should be done. We did stop St. Mary's while they were building theirs and gave them a do not until we made them fill out a sign application, and then they paid the fee and finished their mural. So let's look at it and come up with it. I think we should charge for art, but I'm okay if the council decides that we shouldn't. I don't want to stymie art, but we are filling out applications. We're going to review them. We are doing that work, and we've got a new building codes department that I also think probably you need to make in that sign. What are we doing when the sign gets run down? I'm a little worried. I was worried when we started to do it. Is it thank you.
Like the sign to the city coming in on Broad Street.
Yeah, sure. Well, what should we? It's funny, Ben, I'm sure that the city has not followed its own code. So I'm with you. So I think we should. I like what I was thinking about is the mural that's on the Pizza Hut, Domino's. As it starts to peel, are we going to ask them, or are we going to come up with some money like we did originally with the Arts District? We used money for them so that they can touch it up, because a little bit of peeling is probably not a problem, but a lot, we probably should look at what we're doing to support it so they don't become eyesores. There was criticism of us when we did approve those murals that they would become eyesores.
What's in the sign from that code? They have to maintain them.
I just think,
Paint, and the planning board, when they review it, they discuss what type of paint, what type of coating is put on them, and how often they will have to be maintained.
I think it's important that we just talk about it and maybe make sure we've got all the information correctly. And our department's had a lot of transition, so I think maybe they might have gotten incorrect information from the previous people. So let's have a conversation and figure out what we want to do at our next meeting. Yeah.
Agreed.
Okay.
I have no new business, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilman Downey, no other business? Councilwoman Palmer.
I was just wondering if we might want to, share this and ask for input from the public if it's going to represent the city. I don't know. What
I think it's really text heavy.
Sure, I'm sorry.
Oh, the flag.
Oh, sure.
Just if it's going to be like the city's flag, it might be a thing for people. People might want to weigh in, or maybe even some professional designer people might want to do it like.
Or maybe go to the schools and ask, some people.
I know a graphic design student that might be interested in designing.
It just, it seems like a big thing that would represent so many people. It'd be cool to have people weigh in.
It could also be a fun thing for people that are interested in doing that too. So a way to engage people instead of just going and saying.
Throw a contest.
Yeah. That sounds great.
I think that would be cool.
It would be kind of, I think so too.
I mean, I appreciate her doing this.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
yes,
Yeah.
city employees input, but this is our community's flag, and
Needs to be.
it'd be awesome to see what kind of people, what designs would be.
Come on.
I think it would be cool.
Yes, all right, great. Thank you. Any other new business?
No.
Any new business? Do we have any public comment online, people? So if not, do we have a motion? I believe we're looking for a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Okay, thank you all.
Sorry.
You're in rare form.